The hero of our episode has been in agriculture for 33 years, and in the field of open-field vegetables, he is largely one of the pioneers. He earned his first million by growing lettuce. His enterprise is one of the largest in the region and in the country. It has grown from 25 hectares to 15,000, from which over 100,000 tons of potato harvest were obtained last year. As part of a partnership project with Agros Expo Group, the organizer of the Agros and Agrotech Expo, Potatoes, Vegetables, Fruits exhibitions, today we will visit the lands of the legendary Yakroma floodplain, on the fields of the agricultural holding Dmitrovskie Vegetables. We will talk with Sergei Nikolaevich Filipov, president of the Dmitrovskie Vegetables group of companies, about agro-technologies in vegetable growing and vegetable processing. We will learn how the market conditions in this segment are formed and discuss issues of land reclamation, one of the most significant tools for achieving high and stable yields of open-field vegetables. Sergei Nikolaevich, how is the market situation developing today? And to what extent does what you produce reflect the trends you observe? I mean in terms of crops.
But when talking about open-field vegetables, it is essential to briefly discuss potatoes. All major potato growers have certainly and undoubtedly tried their hand at vegetable growing in the field of and other related activities. And indeed, the story of open ground is somewhat the opposite for us. I started with vegetables, and at a certain stage I realized that open-field vegetables are good, but potatoes are definitely necessary for vegetables.
Profitability or crop rotation, what is the reason?
Probably more the market, because when you go out, and for us it has always been very important, what we were able to survive and rise in the 90s because we started our business in the 90s. That is, this understanding of market conditions. As of today, if we consider the production structure of our farm, we produce potatoes. We produce at least approximately 40% more potatoes than vegetables in our production process, significantly compared to other types of vegetables. If we take the production volumes of the company, on average we produce 100,000 tons per year. Vegetable growers and potato growers will understand what that means. In certain years, during a bad year, it is less, around 70-75, while in a very good year it is 100-110. The volume of potato production is at the level of 60-70 tons, and we produce 40-45 tons of vegetables, meaning the goal is to produce up to 50,000 tons. We started our production, our business, yes, we began it, based on the Bunyatinsky State Farm, but we initiated it as a separate enterprise that had nothing in common with the former Bunyatinsky State Farm, except for the common founders. We started our business with a small vegetable field, conditionally about 25 hectares, practically from scratch, almost in an open field, without having any material baggage whatsoever at all, absolutely. There was only a desire to work. On these 25 hectares, about 40 different types of vegetables were produced. We have tried our hand at many things. Eventually, we settled on traditional vegetables, the so-called borscht set. We started producing potatoes. And among such, let's say, unconventional vegetables, there is the salad field, varieties of salads, iceberg, romaine, lolo rosso, radicchio, and others. This is what we continue to engage in.
So, you already had salads back then?
We started producing salads around 1991, 1992, when we were just beginning. At that time, we were probably among the first to engage in industrial production, specifically salad production. Not just small-scale gardening, but large-scale industrial production. We were pioneers in this field. We have been pioneers in many areas, especially in the evolution of open-field agriculture. We implemented and utilized a lot of innovations. So, when I started, I experienced the old Soviet vegetable farming system, which meant working with fruit and vegetable bases, Moscow's fruit and vegetable bases. It meant that during the harvest, a line of buses would come from Moscow, the so-called supervisors, students, and the army. the army. I witnessed all of this, I experienced all of it, and this transformation that has occurred in vegetable growing, in open fields over these 30 years and 3 years. So, well, I might soon write a book. I can write exactly this. It's easy because I have seen it all with my own eyes.
The ball was here in sight, and I think they felt it too.
Yes, I've processed all of this myself.
Well, I think that not only through myself, but also through my business. After all, there were, I believe, a number of decisions that, as it seems to me, regarding the salad group, were a driving force at a certain moment. Because, of course, it is difficult for me to assess the market conditions at that time, but it seems to me that any product that stands out will always be highly profitable. It will be difficult to produce because this is a new technology. We need to understand how to do it. We also need to find a market for it, but it is always profitable. Or am I mistaken?
You are absolutely right. I even tell many different stories, all related to salads. I tell everyone that we earned our first 1,000,000 rubles from salads, and we also earned our first $1 million from salads. The correctly chosen product, yes, it was the correctly chosen product. At that time, this development was the arrival of these fast food chains in the Russian market. Well, first of all, McDonald's. In the first year, we started supplying lettuce to McDonald's. As we continued to develop, we realized at a certain stage that focusing solely on production and raw material supply was not interesting. Currently, in our company, we are operating a salad workshop where we also process salad products and distribute them, which we supply to various store shelves in the region or to the fast food system or other outlets. Various types of emerging, evolving, and expanding food segments. Now we are already supplying the finished product. Not raw materials, but the finished product.
And when did we move into processing? And why was such a decision made?
This is again a story. Salad processing is a relatively small type of processing, and salad processing appeared later. Here, we first had processing, vegetable and potato processing, that is, root vegetable, groups, and then potatoes. It seems that in 2007 or 2008 I was in Germany, in Bavaria, at my partner's place. He has a different processing facility. He has a drying plant. I was in the corner, and there in one of the hangars I saw an old used potato cleaning machine. Yes, a potato cleaning machine, I mean. And I asked him, I said, "What about the car? What is it doing here?" He said, "I bought a line. Somewhere I acquired a line for the preparation, specifically for drying vegetables, somewhere in Bulgaria or Romania. Well, it doesn't matter. There was this car. They were selling everything, and they said, 'Take this car.' I said, 'Well, okay. Do you need it?' 'No.' I said, 'Will you give it to me as a gift?' He said, 'Sure, no problem.' I brought this machine. We carefully restored it after some time, and then we launched it. And that's how we started processing vegetables. Then accordingly, we assessed the market and understood what was needed. Today, vegetable processing is an important and essential component of our business. We process vegetables, and in my understanding, we have found a very absolutely correct direction here. Because vegetable growers, particularly potato growers, understand today's customer demands. And our main customer today is the retail chain. In other words, the retail chains have monopolized the market, and there is no way around them. Yes, there are vegetables and potatoes. The second segment is the markets, but the markets are all trade networks, even when I interact directly with my trading house. I see that there are no networks. The networks are not placing orders, and there are constant auctions. Weekly auctions. When colleagues from the trading house are bidding and losing, it means there are no orders from the networks. There are no orders from the chains, no volume, no sales. If there is no volume, there are no sales. There are no sales. Those who are familiar with this and know the specifications of retail chains understand that they need everything to be very good, the best, the very best.
They have a concept called freshness, which I was recently taught by you.
There is the concept of freshness. And there are many concepts. This is a separate topic. and I could probably talk about it for a long time, perhaps in the context of another dialogue. They have a concept of specifications. There is a specification for each product. It must comply with this specification, and according to the specification, a certain caliber is required to avoid any blemishes when there is an abundance of potatoes on the market. When you look and read, and when they start preparing. It should be when you look and read, and when they start preparing. Many things become unclear. But the question remains, what to do with a product that, for example, does not meet this specification? The road network has a specification for items such as potatoes. Again, in the market for new potatoes, they want a caliber of 55 plus, but what to do with the caliber 52, 52, yes, 52. And so we found a fairly correct direction here. That is, this so-called, this is a quality product. The so-called, we call it the second, no waste. This is the second category. We process it, we clean it, we vacuum pack it. Today we have post-sterilization and various types of cutting. That is, essentially, we provide a pre-prepared product. And this finished product can be used in numerous segments of the vegetable market, such as including the same pools of supermarkets. We found our niche, we occupied it, and moreover, almost our entire product line today consists of our own raw materials. We practically process everything. Let's say conditionally, not 100%, because we have to buy some additional materials, but about 80–85% is our own raw material, and a lot of potatoes are produced. From this potato, if you work with the networks and meet their requirements at best, if 50–60% is compliant, what should be done with the remaining 40%? Everything we produce goes to our own processing, and the profitability of this processing is higher than that of the super product that goes to the retail network in its fresh form. What are you talking about? The fresh category.
You, as a person who has been observing the processes in the market for 30 years,
Approximately 30 years and a span of 3 years in total, making it a comprehensive period.
you can clearly see how the approach has changed, how the demand has evolved, and what kind of product is required now. Well, I am undoubtedly more than confident that the issue of delivering a quality product in large volumes, that is, achieving the maximum harvest, is also a task that probably arises, if not every day, then at least every year when the next season begins. In this case, the issue of land reclamation and irrigation, in my opinion, is a cornerstone matter, because 80% of the land in Russia actually lacks sufficient moisture. Please, if you would be so kind, kindly tell me approximately how long ago you started irrigation. How did you come to realize that land reclamation is necessary? And how did you implement the technology?
If we are talking the production of open field vegetables, it is impossible to grow vegetables without irrigation. Why, when the idea of this project, specifically vegetable production, first emerged a long time ago, the first condition was, initially and importantly, to find the right site, to find the suitable right land. The task was specifically in areas where vegetable production already exists, and vegetable production means irrigated lands, such as. That is why I found myself here in the Dmitrovskie district, at the famous Yakroma floodplain, a pride of Russian and Soviet land reclamation. We have all vegetables, 100% of the vegetables, all root crops. Not to mention such crops that we grow from seedlings like lettuce and cabbage. Everything is definitely in the field to ensure a successful and bountiful harvest consistently, year after year. It is crucial to implement a well-planned and efficient irrigation system that is tailored to the specific needs of the crops and the local climate conditions. For example, this year, The harvest of potatoes, such as the ones in the northern regions, is unfortunately not going well. It is not going well across the entire country. I'm not saying that things are bad for us, but they could be better. Last year was better, according to the statistics I have. Potatoes are grown on only approximately 30% of irrigated areas across the country. Indeed, it is impossible to grow potatoes in the south without irrigation at all. Here in our farm, we also grow potatoes approximately 30%, maybe a little more. We grow on irrigated areas, because not all the areas we work with have the possibility of irrigation. Yes, let it be. In our region, in the Moscow region. It seems that, according to statistics, the average annual amount of precipitation is quite high here. But again, if someone were to open the tap on time, everything could be fine. But there are periods when it is simply necessary to water at certain times. There are regions where irrigation works continuously. Otherwise, you won't get any harvest at all. And if we talk about land reclamation in general, then land reclamation is not just about irrigation. The famous Yakroma floodplain, a pride of Soviet land reclamation. Here, in addition to irrigation, we also have a drainage system. Here, this is practically when the excess water drains away through the drainage systems. In the spring, when it rains intensely, our fields in the Yakroma floodplain typically dry out faster than the fields that do not usually have a drainage system. Reclamation, in its full understanding, means improvement. It is a system of measures aimed at enhancing the entire structure of fields, lands, and sown areas. And here is a set of reclamation works. That is, here we have everything we are talking about regarding the regulation of the water balance. Here are agronomic measures, and here are issues of agrochemistry, because there are questions and there is such a concept as chemical reclamation. That is, this includes reclamation, which means gypsum application, phosphorization, and all of this is included. And as a rule, when you carry out a set of these measures, it is not aimed at achieving any quick effect. It is a long-term effort. A long-term effort that produces significant and measurable results over a certain period. This result is especially noticeable under extreme conditions. For example, this year, I have never experienced anything like this before. This year, we had 110 millimeters of rainfall in just one day. Here in the Dmitrovsky district, specifically in this area, on our fields. Moreover, in the first hour and a half, 70% of that amount fell. Everything was flooded, all our fields were underwater, and if it weren't for the complex of measures we implemented, those fields that we actually developed there, good reclamation measures, those fields would not be yielding crops now. In places where no measures have been taken, where there are locks, and where the drainage system is not functioning well, there are significant crop losses. If we take the complete results for the Yakroma floodplain, we can see what is happening with the neighbors. We are probably among the few who are engaged in this here in the Yakroma floodplain.
Well, I would still like to delve deeper into this understanding, so to speak, with the tools of reclamation. What is it?
The billion-dollar system historically originated in ancient Rome. Any billion-dollar system typically operates for 40, 50 years. Then it needs to be renewed, reconstructed, or something needs to be changed. Yakroma floodplain. Again, regarding the history of the Yakroma floodplain, it was created in the 1960s and 1970s. Today, this would be commonly referred to in modern terms as, in a way, the creation of an agro-cluster. The agro-cluster that was indeed created at that time could probably afford it. The Soviet state task was the creation, that is, the drainage of the Yakroma floodplain, with the aim of establishing these operational systems to supply the city of Moscow with fresh vegetables and potatoes. This is what was done back then. It has been working since the 1960s, meaning it has been effective for 50, 60 years to this day. It works. And the functionality, those tasks that were established, we continue to pursue them. Yes, the owners have changed now, and a lot has changed. A lot has changed over the generations. I can say that I hear several generations. Several generations have changed, but we are still tackling the same tasks. The time has passed when systems need to undergo a significant comprehensive renewal process. That is, they have become outdated in terms of morality. They are morally outdated. They have also become technologically obsolete, as new systems of machines and equipment have emerged. All these reclamation systems were built using Soviet technology. Now there is a new use for these old systems, but it is ineffective. We are not achieving the desired effect, and we are not getting the results we need. These processes are very labor-intensive. We do not have the labor resources necessary to maintain these old systems. Everything needs to be rebuilt. To globally restructure, we are working on this. So, how do we build the process? A plot of land is taken, there are 100 hectares, a project is developed, and this project is then defended and undergoes examination. Based on this project, we begin the reconstruction. We are restructuring. That is leveling, often removing old sprinklers, old hydrants, and the old reclamation system. We remove old water pipelines, lay new pipelines, level all fields, design, install, and lay new drainage systems. New modern irrigation machines. We are leveling fields using GPS. Each field of ours is at a certain slope and has a unique characteristic. In order for the water to drain away, in the case of heavy rainfall, there needs to be a distribution of this water. Furthermore, these systems that were in place did not always utilize the areas effectively, meaning there were many dispersers, and that was the case. Right now we are clearing all of this. We are removing everything. In other words, these are quite serious, comprehensive works. It's not just about investments. You also need to have specialists. And investments, plot R18 is 90 hectares. 20% codename R18 is about 90 hectares. We have thoroughly and completely carried out an extensive and comprehensive reconstruction of this area and installed a new planting system. The pleasure cost us approximately more than 500,000 per hectare. And everything we do, this so-called global reconstruction, comprehensive reconstruction, all of it is roughly in such price ranges.
It turns out that by updating the reclamation system now, you are essentially laying the foundation for the potential for the next 50, 60 years. You have non-irrigated lands, lands that are under irrigation, and those for which you have already carried out a comprehensive update of the reclamation system. What is the approximate percentage difference in yield? We are specifically talking about potatoes.
Where we irrigate, it generally results in a yield of at least 30–50%. Higher. This is the minimum. Additionally, we must not forget about the quality of the products.
You touched on a very important point regarding the quality of the products produced through irrigation. How significantly does it differ from the perspective of market prices, perhaps even including that?
We do not always strive to achieve the maximum yield. Take any crop, such as cabbage, with the aim of maximizing the harvest. Yes, tomorrow I will plant cabbage of certain varieties that will yield me 100–120 tons per hectare. These will be large heads weighing 7 to 8 kilograms. The question is, who needs them? Where am I putting this cabbage? Or there is a harvest of beets. We grow a lot of beets. We have one of the largest beet fields in Russia, probably. We grow beets for processing. So, the standard for the retail chain is 60 by 90. This is the standard for the retail chain. I can grow root vegetables like these, with a yield of 80, 90, 100 tons per hectare. But the question is, who needs it? That is, first of all, the standards of the retail chain. They need a small standard for processing. They need a standard conditionally of 40, 60. Because to get this small beet, pack it in vacuum packaging, boil it, and then the housewife comes to the supermarket, buys it, and quickly prepares vinaigrette, herring under a fur coat, and other dishes. Large beets are also not suitable for processing. We grow onions, and on the contrary, we need large onions. We have a standard for onions of 60, 65 plus. This is because we supply onions for processing, and a larger caliber is required. Therefore, depending on the tasks that are set, the utilization of all available production technologies in various sectors of manufacturing is necessary, including the challenges we face with our billions.
The process that you have started and are actively leading regarding the change and renovation, let's call it that, of the irrigation system is precisely a foundation for the future. How do you currently view the market prospects? Perhaps just like before, you are identifying a specific crop that could serve as a potential driver, or do you understand the technology, realizing that everything will move in this direction? What do you define for yourself right now, and what goals and objectives do you set for the future?
The number one primary goal is to successfully harvest the crop. Harvest the crop, establish the yield, and maintain the conditions in which we are working this year. In an inconsistent year, something always happens. And it is very, very difficult for us. It was still going on in the first decade. Of May, half the country froze. We didn't freeze here somehow or other inexplicably, but there were questions for some reason. In June, we received a double portion of precipitation. Yes, indeed, she does too. It has influenced both development and the overall outcome. As far as I understand, August-September is the driest and hottest month since the beginning of meteorological observations. Therefore, the number one task is to harvest the crops. As for the specific crops we are going to work with, which are our priorities, where we see further development. Here we are most likely quite conservative in this situation. We stick to our borscht set. We remain currently with potatoes, and we also remain with the salad group. But our potato production is also diversified. We produce not only food potatoes, we produce a lot of potatoes. We produce seed potatoes as well. We have a separate project for seed potatoes in the Tolgovsky district. Here, we have been working for 2 years on the production of chip potatoes for the company, Frito-Lay. This is a separate project. Last year taught us as well. There was an overproduction of potatoes last year. And this diversification indeed allows one to remain consistently in the market. And somewhere, if one thing doesn't work out, then another must succeed. And here, sufficiently flexible processing directions are a priority for us in our operations. They are of utmost priority. However, we also do not refuse to work with the fresh category, specifically regarding fresh vegetables. But here we are quite selective. We work with particular and carefully selected retail chains, often not the largest ones, but having such a pool of these retail chains allows us to sell our product quite effectively and well established. We are not the cheapest company, and that means the skill of our salespeople lies in the fact that each product has its own price. Yes, it may not be of the highest quality, but it should have its price, And I always say, when the employees from the sales department come in and start saying that they don't like something about the product, we go tit, 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 tit. We must always say that our product is the best, and we are better than everyone else. This is our position, our strategy. We do not expect any significant changes in the production structure or the company structure in the near future. Well, perhaps this is not the time for any global initiatives or projects, but it is not the time to talk about it at this moment. At the same time, we understand what we need, what we are lacking, and how to move forward.
You approach all issues very deeply. This is evident in many aspects of your interaction. I would really like you to share where you gather your information from. What are the informational sources you rely on?
At that stage of business creation, the implementation of some new technologies, I said, I have traveled a lot, primarily to Europe. I know, have been, and have visited many large vegetable growing enterprises in Germany, the Netherlands, Spain, and Italy. We gathered additional information from there. We would go there, and they would come to us. Techniques, technologies, new solutions. It's easier for me in this regard. I graduated from Humboldt University in Berlin in my time. In other words, knowledge of the language, communication skills, and understanding have all helped me greatly throughout my life. And today, all of this is significantly easier. When there is this small little black box device, there is the internet that connects to the World Wide Web easily and efficiently.
Now, regarding last year's event on potatoes that was organized at Agros, could you please tell us how you...
Do you know who supported him? There was the idea of Nando, regarding all the activities of your colleagues, to hold an event for potato growers, so that potato growers could participate in this event. We discussed this topic at the Potato Union as well. I was the first to say that yes, we need to participate. My word was enough. There is sufficient authority in the potato community. I believe it is very successful, very successful. It coincided well in terms of timing. It is the end of January when potato growers finally have some pause. The exhibition is good. At least I was there every day. And I didn't have a single minute of free time. That is, there were many colleagues and a lot of communication. Because today there are exhibitions, some events. It's not even something new in technology. It's an opportunity for communication. And when you enter the exhibition, you haven't even reached the pavilion yet. And you've already greeted someone about 10 times. Or someone has greeted you, or you've greeted someone. Sometimes you don't even know who that person is. You try to remember who they are. This is primarily about communication. These are meetings. This is communication. This is some kind of conversations, beta conversations. Therefore, the exhibition was very necessary and very useful. And apparently, some acquired experience. And again, the potato community and the vegetable community have drawn conclusions for themselves on how to introduce something new and additional in the future to make it more interesting.
It's intensely interesting. If you could say, please bring me this kind of information for this event this year, what would you like to hear at this event in the year 25?
The potato community has many large potato growers and they are quite closed off in terms of information. And so all these market analyses, this is somewhere, well, a general understanding, not a misunderstanding of certain more or less conditional local processes, that we want something new. Probably that is what. At this moment, when we need to turn 180 degrees and head in a different direction, we have a certain lack of information about what is happening in the other direction. That is, these new markets, new suppliers, new contacts, new connections. I know that this is all being done today within the framework of the Potato Union and the potato system. For me, for example, it is quite difficult to adapt at this time. I got used to it, I built it. We have built relationships with our traditional partners in many areas. Now something is changing, and it is changing globally. Vector, although I see a deficit. I see a deficit of information. I see a deficit of communication contacts. I have good German. I have always found it easy to communicate with them. We spoke like she did.
Understanding each other.
Understanding each other, without a translator, without anything, without everything. Now, well, everything is changing. So I went there in May, flew to Dubai. Well, it was also for business. I realized that we need to communicate in a language that is understandable. Well, my German is not useful there. I am currently learning English. Very actively.
Thank you very much for your responses.